That's the way they became the Shady Bunch.
Hello, good day, and welcome to another mind-bending, arse-cheek clenching episode of the Shady Bunch that I know all you Shady Bunchers have been waiting for with me, the resident squeaky scouser and regular co-host Graham Hughes, aka Cockhead Dundee. We have an exclusive for all you lovely Shady Bunchers. It has taken quite a bit of arranging behind the scenes, and keeping it quiet was a mammoth task, but those delightful people over on ALLSharts managed to pull it off, and I shall let my darling, Phyllis Mooseface, reveal all to you now. Shady Bunches give it up, like I have several times for the other regular co-host, Mr. Phyllis Mooseface.
Hello, my name is Phyllis, and I like talking bollocks. Thank you, Cockhead Dundee. And a very big hello, Shady Bunches, and did you miss me? Of course you did, as I am the most wonderful person alive, next to beloved curry and a beer care. Anyway, as my co-host Cockhead was saying, in his very squeaky scouse tones, we have an exclusive for you on this episode of the Shady Bunch, and there have been a lot of behind the scenes bribes, negotiations to finally bring you this exclusive by those wonderful chaps over on ALLSharts, without whom this episode just would not have been possible. And without any further ado and verbal diarrhea from me, here is an exclusive interview with ex-Tory Prime Minister Spaffer Jobberson, conducted by his longtime spurned love, Drunky McDorries. And it's, well, sort of ladies first, so I will hand things over to the new deformed UK member and the ex-Tory MIA in a constituency of Mid-Bedfordshire. Over to you, Drunky.
Thank you, Phyllis Mooseface, all the Shady Bunches, and to ALLSharts for inviting me back to do this monumental interview with someone whom I worship and adore, and would ride him like a rodeo horse if I ever got the chance. This is no mere mortal to me. He is a god amongst men. His honesty is beyond reproach. I have even gone on the record on national television and stated that he always tells the truth, which he does. And even though I never got to play on his magic flute, I would still very much like to. Shady Bunches, let me introduce you to Mr. Spaffer Jobberson. Hello, darling and object of my carnal desire. How are you, Spaffer?
I am doing very nicely. Thank you for asking, Drunky, what with my book, my regular column in the Daily Mail, other newspaper, editorials, and my lovely fat government pension. Plus, I have a nice big mansion with a moat around it that keeps out the undesirables. I heard that you fell in it a little while ago, so I'm pleased to see that you didn't drown in it. I hear that you have a new man crush, one frog-faced Nigel Farage, and that you have joined the deformed UK party you will replace Granny Waddlebottom as their poster child and eye candy. It has been a long time since you've drunk dialed me in the middle the night and in the relayed all of your sexual fantasies that you wanted us to fulfill together. So I was quite surprised to get an invitation from you to be interviewed by you again, and not on GBBs. But it is good to see you again, and I hope that you can manage to remain conscious and not get too rat-arsed. Anyway, Drunky old girl, I had best let you crack on. And my thanks to Phyllis Mooseface as well for facilitating this interview.
Oh, my beloved Spaffer, how I adored you. But now I have a new lustful manly desire for the fag-smoking, frog-faced one Nigel Farage. He gets me all moist. Anyway, I would like to hear your thoughts on the recent incursions into Polish and NATO airspace by the Russians with their drones. How do you see this going? Do you think NATO have responded appropriately, and how would you have responded?
Well, I think that the Russian incursion was provocative and was responded to in the correct way. Well, the drones, as far as I understand it, were shot down. What I'm trying to get at is that, we're in danger of a kind of ridiculous chicken and egg situation here, or a trap by Putin, whereby all these so-called security guarantees and boots on the ground and coalition winning, none of that becomes relevant until such time as there is a ceasefire or armistice, which of course is entirely within his gift. And the circumstances, the conditions for that deployment, if we insist on a ceasefire, may never be met, because it'll be like the Donbass. He'll just keep going. There'll be some part of the theatre where he keeps chipping away, because that's plainly his modus operandi. That's what he does. And I see no sign whatever that he wants to fix this thing. And so what I'm saying is you need a package of things that are going to start changing his psychology and changing his strategic goal. He needs to think, this thing, I'm probably not going to get back the whole of Ukraine. They are going to fight on, and maybe a ceasefire is actually in my long term. Get off of wartime economies, get back to economic growth. Maybe he needed to change his thinking, because at the moment he's thinking for his own political survival. He's better off just grinding away. So you need all the economic thing, the package of the sanctions, the unfreezing of the assets, etc., etc. You need more military help, Taurus missiles, more permissions, give Ukrainians more help, more money for the drones. But then you need something that's going to flip a switch in the Kremlin's brain and make them realize that fundamentally, strategically, this is over. Ukraine is an independent country, and although they may be impossible, it may be impossible to get Putin out of the bits he currently occupies, the cost of trying to get the rest is going to be too great, and it's pointless, because the West has asserted its commitment. And the way for the West to assert its commitment would be to say, well, the coalition of the willing will start to arrive. And they won't. Of course, they're not going to fight the war. The Ukrainians are much better than Western Europeans at fighting the war. They're not going to go into harm's way. They're going to do logistics. They're going to do training. They're going to do whatever to backfilling is useful. But fundamentally, they're going to be there to make the point that Ukraine decides what military forces come to Ukraine, not Russia.
You and another so-called commentator on YouTube, one Mr. Shifty McGrifty, are both advocating for putting NATO or EU boots on the ground in Ukraine, which is fine and dandy for both of you to say. But when asked if those boots will be yours or those of your family and friends, there is a very muted response, which sounds like it is fine for others to do it, but not you or your family members. But anyway, would you consider this action as inflammatory? And Mr. Shifty McGrifty also thinks that it is great that Europe is expanding its military-industrial complex and has increased its military spending. It as if he is too stupid, and that is some statement coming from a broken-down drunk ex-Tory like me to understand that when you increase the production of munitions, something has to be done with those munitions. They are not produced just to sit around and do nothing. Anyway, I digress. So crossing those Russian red lines, are you really willing to risk World War III? Do you think that Europe and NATO should cross those red lines?
Get on with it. Get on with it. I mean, as I'm sure you remember, before we had Project Orbital, Operation Orbital. We trained we had a lot of UK soldiers here doing training. They then, after February 22, they then left and the training was done outside Ukraine. But what's the difference? Do it again in Ukraine. Kipper!
Were you happy with the NATO response? Do you think there should have been a much more robust response to that incursion into NATO airspace? Maybe a military response?
I don't agree with that. So the drones got shot down. And I'm not clear what damage the NATO country has sustained. And the NATO country, is, as we speak, currently uninfested by Russian kipper, or Russian military.
So you think that the NATO response was the correct and appropriate response?
Suppose we blew up a drone factory in Russia, and we killed a lot of people. I don't know whether our publics would think that was proportionate. I'm not sure. I think that's proportionate, and I think that Article 5 of the NATO treaty doesn't demand, that a sort of tripwire response to the slightest incursion into NATO territory. What it demands is that the NATO territory is 100% protected, and that it certainly was. I mean, at the time, right now, there are no Russians in Poland. If it was like 1980, and there were Russian tanks in Warsaw, which is, I remember, and probably you don't, but it was in my lifetime, it would be a very different story. Because then NATO has plans, in the event of an actual Russian attack on NATO, to do very, very terrible things, right? And things that will mean that the Russians really don't do it again.
Why do you think the Russians deliberately flew their drones into Polish and NATO airspace?
Because
what were they trying to achieve?
And they want to prod, and they want to show they're willing to do stuff that may alarm Western strategic thinkers. Because nobody wants a war, but on the other hand, a real full-scale war between NATO and Russia. But on the other hand, I don't think anybody in NATO is really too fussed about it. 19 drones, I think most of them got shot down, if not all of them. And what is NATO? What is NATO really supposed to do? Are we supposed to send? Supposed to launch a thermonuclear response to Smolensk and Moscow? Come on,
How do you think NATO and Europe should respond if Russia do something like this again?
Well, I think they'll get taken out again. And, it may be that if it happens again, then the consideration will have to be given to making it impossible for this kind of intimidation to take place.
Do you think that Russia is scared of Ukraine and the possibility of it joining NATO, becoming part of the EU?
It's for the very reason I give. It's because they can see that this is not about territory, this is about destiny. And the point I'm trying to make with my suggestion is that you've got to show them that the destiny the Ukrainians have chosen is irrevocable. And they've chosen to be part of the Western security architecture, however you want to express it. They're going to be part of that family. That doesn't mean they're ever going to be threatening to Russia, but that's what they want. They don't want to be part of the Russian Empire.
Do you think that was just Russia pushing the envelope to see how far they can go? What do you think would have prevented this war from happening?
It's sort of poking. They're poking. Yeah, they're poking. But they do. That's what they do. But what it shows to me is how vastly better it would have been in the early 2000s to have got Ukraine into NATO. Because I don't believe this war would ever have happened. And I think Ukraine would have been properly protected, like Poland is today.
I hear that you are going on holiday again soon. Are you going anywhere exotic?
I am really excited about this holiday, perhaps even more excited than Carrie. Princess Nut and the Kid, or is it Kids? Who knows? I have so many of the little blighters. But we're going to my all-time favourite place to see.
Peppa Pig World is very much my kind of place, but I loved it.
Well, have a fantastic time. I really would have loved to play your magic flute, but alas, I have missed my chance, and I wish you all the best. It has been great to interview you on this subject that you feel very passionately about. Also, you want everyone to believe. Goodbye, Spuffer, and goodbye, all you shady bunches. Now it's back to that very grey man, Phyllis, to close the show.
Bog off.
Hipper smoker.
Wonderful stuff there from Drunky McDorries, and what a Shady Bunch exclusive to have the party animal who would have let the bodies pile high set up the massively corrupt COVID VIP lanes and let his infected special advisor go on a 200-mile round trip to Specsavers, but he is still not as bad as the granny freezing, child starving and complicit in war crimes Curry and Beer Care, but Mr. Shifty McGrifty and myself still want to have his babies. That's it for another episode of the Shady Bunch, and if you have ideas for guests that you would like to see that will not outshine me because I'm the best thing since sliced bread, then drop your suggestions in the comments. Thank you all for giving the Shady Bunch your time and watching. We do this because we enjoy doing it and not for profit. If we manage to put a smile on your face and inform you while doing that, then that is the only payment that we require. Bye for now from me, Phyllis Mooseface, Cockhead Dundee, Sir Larry the Cat, and us jolly kipper smokers over at ALLSharts.